Welcome to another amazing topic of conversation. I want to thank my sponsors, the Health Channel. So please sign up for their newsletter with anything that is related to your health. And if you need workspaces, even if it's virtual for an hour or a month or a year, Alexa's Workspaces will help you with that. So, Luisa, thank you so much for being with us.
On the contrary, thank you for having me.
An immigrant to an immigrant. A Colombian to a Colombian in the US.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we have many things that are parallel because we both are here 25 years ago.
Right.
So my first question to you, because I know that immigration is a hot topic right now, but this is not about immigration. This is about the paths and the journey that all of us had to take coming to this country. So my first question to you is, how do you feel when you're called an immigrant?
That is what I am. I am an immigrant to the United States. Even though I am already a citizen, I am an immigrant. I was naturalized here. But something that is funny is that when I go back to my home country, Colombia, I also feel as an immigrant because I'm no longer, I have not been there for 25 years. So it's like I'm a foreigner in my home country and I am a foreigner here, even though I feel this as my home now.
I guess I can relate to both of that. But with what's going on right now, immigrants, they say immigrants as a bad thing. And immigrants are considered, first of all, illegal, which we're not. We're both US citizens. So it's like a connotation, and that's why I asked you, how do you feel when they call you that, when they say that you're an immigrant? Because it's, for me, it makes me feel proud.
I believe that it only denotes that I know another culture, that I know perhaps another language, that I have probably a wider perspective of the world. So I don't think of immigrant as a negative connotation. On the contrary, it's a characteristic. It is just one more fact of my life.
Which is actually amazing.
I think so.
And this country is founded, or it has grown thanks to the immigration. Because, for example, my family immigrated from Europe when the war started. Well, the little that was left that were able to leave. So we were immigrants in Colombia as well, and then we become immigrants here.
It is the history of the world, of humanity. We have migrated from since the inception. So I believe that immigration right now, it has some people, and I understand some countries are tired of receiving people, probably because they cannot afford a good living for their own, and now they need to think of others that are coming. That is happening in Colombia. I believe many Americans have said, we're tired of receiving immigrants. Some of those immigrants were Colombians. Now Colombians are facing immigration, people from Venezuela going to Colombia, and now they are probably for the first time understanding what an American might feel when other foreigners are coming to their country. Now Colombians are feeling that with Venezuela's going to their country. But what we need to think is we could be in either side, either going to a new country or receiving new people in your place.
I feel that no one wanted to leave their country. that you had to leave your country for something or something happened. It's not that everybody wants to come to the States. I understand that all the people that want to come here have left because of a reason, either violence, lack of security, lack of work, or something. So what was it for you? How has been your journey, especially as a woman coming to as an immigrant to the United States?
So on the contrary, I was very fortunate. I didn't have to leave my country. It was a decision my husband and I made. We both thought it was a good time. It was a good opportunity. I received a job offer, which is not what happens to everyone. So I believe I was fortunate. And we thought it was a nice adventure. And that is how we ended up here. At that time, we had Samuel, my oldest son. He was 1 year old. And we just said, okay, let's give it a try. And we came 5 years later, we had Matthias. And now I believe that we are Floridians. But and if you ask me, and many people, friends and family ask us, do you want to go back to Colombia? And in reality, no, I believe that we are happy here and we want to stay here.
And you made a life.
Yeah.
No, for me, it was different. We were thrown out.
That is not nice. Yeah.
For security reasons, we had to leave. So it was completely different. We got here. I remember getting here and not knowing what to do, what came next, what was going to happen. It was like I was happy. I can't deny it that we were coming here, but it was not easy. It was a completely different culture, different scenario. So when you got here, what were the challenges? Even though you got here with a job offer.
I got here with a job offer with a 1 year old and used to have a lot of help in Colombia.
And here
and my husband, he's amazing. He has always been amazing, but he was responsible for everything at home, taking care of the kid. He was studying, he was doing his master's, and I was just responsible of working. And so
how did he take it? Because in Latin men are very machistas.
I know that I have the best husband ever, but no, he's very, very open-minded in that sense. I have never felt that he thinks that this is my role or that is your role. No, not at all. He took advantage of the moment and did his master's. Then he opened his own company. He is an architect and a general contractor. And then the three of us initially were the family. And then Matthias came along, and when Samuel was 5 years old in 2003. And since then, it has been the four of us, and it has been really nice. No difficulty. Probably, I remember that when we first got here, you remember that in Colombia, the driver's license didn't have an expiration date.
Oh, correct.
So we just got here. We were going to take a car, and we couldn't rent a car because we didn't have the driver's license was expired. And we were trying to explain that in Colombia there were the driver license no longer expired, but they were not changing it. No, there was no way. I had to go back and find my driver's license for the one that I have from Maryland when I studied here in the 90s. And with that one, I was able to renew it here in Florida. And we were able to get a car. The other thing that was a challenge, having a credit history. We don't understand that. That is
something that
crazy.
nobody knows, and that is the first lesson that we all need to learn. How to create your credit history. This is the base of this country.
And not only that, we went to buy our first car.
I know.
And I said, Luisa Gamboa. And I said, if I studied in this country, I had a loan. It was not that so I was paying still my dues. And no, you have no credit history. I say, no, I'm sorry. I've been paying for 10 years. Are you telling me that I have no credit history? No credit history. Nothing. So we started building it. But what was nice is that we were able to find among the neighbors, people that were in the different industries that you need, and people started helping us, and they were giving references, and that is how we got our first loan.
Wait, how did you build your credit? What was the first part that you did?
So my husband's cousin was a realtor, and she was the one who showed us the house that we rented. That was no issue because I had my work reference, and so that was no issue. But when we went to buy the car, the topic came up. You have no credit history. So my husband's cousin had a neighbor that had a car. It was a car dealer, so we went there, and just because he knew my husband's cousin, he gave us the loan, and that is how we started the loan, the credit history.
We didn't have anyone in
in the neighborhood.
We didn't have the neighbor. So one of the things that somebody told me was to open an American Express. Even if they just gave us, I remember the credit line was $300 something. And they said that I had to use it and pay it immediately so I could start. And apparently American Express is the one that helps you build more credit. So that was the first thing. And the other thing was, we didn't want to buy the car. We wanted to lease it. And they didn't let us lease it because we didn't have credit. So what we did was we had to prepay the first year of lease. And that is how we started the credit. They said, okay, you have to pay 1 year prepaid lease, and then we will see how your credit goes. But we had to choose who wanted the credit first. I remember the car was under my husband, the credit card was under me, so we started building the credit parallel.
No, it's crazy.
But that is the one thing that nobody understands, is how to build your credit here.
That is still an issue. And with my kids, both are Americans. One was born here, and only until they are 18, they can be on their own with their bank accounts and start building the credit.
But you can open an American Express when they're 16. And
But that was one of the things that I was always, hey, you're turning 16. Let's go to the bank. Let's make sure that you start building your credit history.
What was the next challenge?
A difficult experience that we had in 2006 with my youngest son. At that time, I had to travel heavily, and I remember that I came on a Saturday morning. My parents were here with the kids, and my mom doesn't speak English. So she said, I want to pick up Matthias to school. And I asked why he had so many bruises, and they didn't understand what I was saying. So, but I see that he has too many bruises. During the weekend, the bruises were more noticeable. On Monday, I went to the school and I say, hey, do you have any report or the cameras? Can you check? Because Matias has too many bruises and that is not normal. At 5 in the afternoon, I received a call from my husband saying, you need to go to the school. They are taking the kids.
They thought it was you?
We got there and they thought that it was my husband, my parents, or me who were hitting my son. So the first day, since it was already end of the day, they didn't have doctors to check him. They were taking him to foster care. And I say, no way.
Panic attack.
And they allowed me to take the kids where they took them, the kids to my friend's house, to Alexandra Garavito's house. And they stayed there. The day after, we took them to the forensic doctor, where they do all the check. And they said, these bruises are inflicted. Someone took him by the shoulders, another one by the hip, and a third one was hitting. And you say, you're absolutely crazy. They left us there it was like 4 or 6 hours separated. My husband in one room, I was in another room. At a point they said, no, you can leave now. We ran to our doctors, and what Matias had is ITP. That is when you lose your platelets and you cannot produce them. So he was at high risk of having a hemorrhage, and he could die out of it. And it's incredible how people, or at least the authorities, the first thing they think is that someone is harming the kid rather than looking for what is causing the bruises. We were lucky that our doctor was the first thing that he thought of. And a couple of hours later, we were already in the hospital, where he stayed for a couple of days until they defined what it was, because there isn't a test to determine it. It's just by they start saying it is not this, it is not this, it is not this, and then starting the chemio. And luckily that he reacted very well, but it took us a good year to get out of that situation. And then having a record, it was like no one
had a record.
Yeah, because we had the police here. This was like crazy, like criminals. And this, because the school, what happened is that the school didn't have they didn't have any evidence that there had been an accident. It was Monday. They thought that we had caused it, and instead of asking, they just call and they say the kid has bruises. The parents might have hit him during the weekend or something like that, and they wash their hands and they just throw us under the bus.
But on another note, I think the school actually reacted fast, because if it had been a real that you had hit they did react fast.
Well, I was the one who prompted.
On the wrong side, because it wasn't that the case. But if it have been a kid being beaten in the house, they did it very fast. So
no, on the contrary, I asked them on Monday morning, and they only
okay, they
only until the end of the day is when they decided to call the police.
Oh, so they didn't even see it. It was because
I was the one who said, please check the cameras, check what happened, see if there's any report, because Matias came with bruises on Friday. It is Monday, he has many more, but we don't know what caused it.
Happened.
So I was the one who warned them about the situation. And instead of calling me and saying, there's no record, there's not, we're going to call the police, I would have gone there and we could have probably be on time so that a doctor could have seen him that day instead of going through all that emotional situation.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was tough, I know. Now we laugh. At that time, it was
Yeah,
horrible.
it wasn't funny. I
Yeah.
remember my first experience. I got here and I was parked and I backed up and I hit a car, but hit it very, I was parked, so I wasn't going fast. It was just like a touch, like this. And I turned around and it was a police car. And immediately he put the lights. And I looked at his car and nothing happened. Like literally, not even a scratch, nothing. And since the bumper of my car was made of plastic, it just broke a little bit in the middle. I said, look, nothing happened to you. What's the problem? I just leave and nothing happened. Where are you from? And when I said Colombia, he immediately said, he gave me 10 cents. I remember at that time, 10 cents to call my lawyer. And I sat down and I go, what lawyer? And immediately 6 cars of police surrounded me. And he said that I was trying to bribe him because I said that nothing happened to leave. And they searched my car. They thought I had drugs. They thought I had everything. And it was horrible. Like literally, thank God, one of the other police said, what's going on? Like, this is like nothing happened. Like, give us a case. And the police was just only because I was Colombian. And he thought that every Colombian came here with drugs. So he wouldn't believe. Yes, it was the preconception. And thanks to the other police, that was resolved. He said, no, go home, nothing happened. But I remember when he gave me the 10 cents, I just sat down and cried. And I go, what lawyer? What am I doing?
That you mentioned that, I recall that once there was I saw a couple fighting. It was, I don't know, husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, I don't know, but the guy was being violent. And I called 911
Yes.
to report it. And the officer asked me if the people were, what race were they? And I couldn't understand the question. I don't understand why are you asking me that? Why don't you send someone? And then he said, because if you tell me the race, I will try to send agents of that same race. And I never thought about that. And I believe it is good to avoid problems. But I was offended by the fact that the person was asking me the race of the people involved in the incident. But now I understand, and I believe it was a smart question to ask.
I didn't realize that it was very smart, but at the beginning you feel like, why?
Uh-huh.
So the
And
other
that
part,
is something that as immigrants we need to understand. When you get to a new place, you need to start to understand the environment and don't be like thinking that all the questions or the things that happen is because you're
against
not
you.
welcome. No, it is
No.
because that is the way things are in the place that you are getting to. So you need to learn how are the ways there and start accommodating. I remember at the time that you and I came to this country, many came with us because that was a time where a lot of Colombians arrived and many are already back. And many of those that are already back is because they were not able to accommodate to the
Correct.
way of living here in the States.
The other part that I was not used to, and I learned the hard way as well, was that in Colombia, when you get married, you don't change your name. You keep the name that you're born with. You don't change to your husband's last name, right? So I did in all my papers, my passport and everything was my maiden name. And when we started filing taxes, we did it as a joint, as a couple.
Mhm.
And then I get a letter that from the IRS suing me that I was impersonating somebody else.
Yeah, that is very common.
And it was a huge issue because yes, I had one name, I had another name. And finally somebody helped me when I put my maiden name as the middle name.
Uh-huh.
So now I have the two names and done.
For
But
me,
it was a big issue. It was a big issue because proving that I was not impersonating, even if I had my marriage license, even if I had everything. No, you have your ID with one name and you do taxes with another name, so you're impersonating.
for me, with the name, the issue was at school. But I married in Colombia, so I kept my last name and I came here
As
with
well.
Gamboa. But when the kids were at school and I was going to pick them up, I had to show my driver's license. And their last name is Castañeda. I am Luisa Gamboa. And they were always asking me, and how are you related? Who are you? Well, I happen to be the mom. But no, I don't have their last name. But it was difficult for them to understand.
Yeah, so that's another thing that when you come here is like I didn't want to lose my name, so I used it as my middle name. Those are the little things that you don't realize. That it sounds very easy, but it can become a complicated thing.
It's a headache.
It's
Because then
learning
you need to decide where you're gonna change your name. Are you gonna change it in Colombia or are you gonna change it here? But
no,
you
I
need to
change
change
it
it
here.
somewhere.
No, the other part was learning how to do business here when I decided to start my own business, which was very, very different from doing business there.
Yes, I would agree. My experience was a little bit different in the sense that, as I mentioned to you, I came over as an employee of a multinational. So everything was organized for me. But when I retired at the end of 2014, and I started my own life and my firm, well, first I had to go back to study. I had to validate my
Why?
title. I'm sorry?
Why didn't you, wasn't your job as a lawyer?
Yes, but remember that I was a lawyer for, I had international responsibility. I was not a US lawyer.
Okay, so
And
you had to
if I
validate here.
if I wanted to practice law, I had to validate my title and become a US lawyer. So I was the oldest person in that room of 1,600 young lawyers presenting the bar.
And how many women?
I'm sorry?
And how many women?
Oh, no, it was like half and half.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
good to know.
yeah. Yeah, no, I remember when I had to take ethics because at the time that I did my master's, that class was not mandatory. Now it is. So I went UM and I registered for the class. First day I got there, everybody got quiet. I sat in the back and the students were, is she the professor? Who is that old lady in the back? Then the professor came in. It's a person that I know, so she introduced me to the team as a classmate. And a guy that was sitting next to me asked me, when did you graduate from law school? I say, in the 90s. And he was like, what? And I say, what? I say, well, that was when I was born. So that was the gap. They could all be my kids.
But good for you.
It was an amazing experience.
That you went back to school. And
Yeah.
I don't understand why they give all the ethics, and now what happened to ethics?
What happened? I believe that it has always been there. The thing is that sometimes human nature is tempting, how far I can go. And that is the problem.
And Lisa, with that, thank you.
No, thank you. I love talking to you.
And to be continued for the next challenges on how we got here, how it was. And I hope that for everyone it has been smooth and productive so that we can help grow.
Yeah,
and collaborate with each other.
Exactly. Help one person. If each of us help another one, the world will change.
Will be different. And with that, thank you, everyone. And I hope that by next week, there will be peace on earth. Stay well until the next week. Have a great day.